Welcome, everyone. I'm Michael McCarthy, instructor at Harvard University. This is the Asia Business Series group. I'm the instructor for E5000 Strategic Management and E5420 Entrepreneurship and Innovation. So all the graduate students in these two classes have been invited. And we'd like to welcome the Managing Director of Huobi Capital, Li Huo, who is going to be talking to you about Huobi Capital and the Asia landscape for the first 20 minutes. Then we're going to be having a 30-minute Q&A, and then we're going to have a hard stop at 8:50 because Lee actually has a meeting right after this. So Lee, welcome to Harvard, and we're ready for you. Begin. Hi.
Hi, Michael. Hi, guys. I think I should say a good evening to all of you guys. It's really my honor to be here and then to really present it, what we experienced in Asia for the past 5 years in the particular blockchain and crypto space. Obviously, I mean, there are lots of ups and downs we experienced in the past 5 years. That's why I put the theme of the presentation as the roller coaster of China in crypto landscape, past, present, and future. Hopefully, give 20 minutes presentation, give you a little bit of the overview of, the industry in general in China. And then, questions are welcome, after that. And then, so my name is Li Huo. I manage the Huobi Capital team. And Huobi Capital, it's a venture arm of Huobi Group. We mainly focus on early stage blockchain projects in this space. We started last year in September, mainly to invest in infrastructures and protocol layer, the base layer infrastructures, because we think that having a very stable infrastructures really would help, build a, a better ecosystem in the future. And then as a group, Huobi Group itself, we launched back in 2013 as an exchange. And then I'm going to give you more information about that in the presentation. So we, like I said, we started the exchange in 2013 and really to build from 0 to 1. In China, it's starting in 2014 to become the largest cryptocurrency market globally. It's really interesting. Let's look a little bit about the history of the cryptocurrency industry, where in 2009, where the really original block of Bitcoin was mined by Satoshi Nakamoto, and then all the way until 2011, when Bitcoin was first mentioned in China, social network sites, and really before 2011, there's really nothing about China, even though there are lots of things happening outside of China, including the first Bitcoin and crypto exchange is launched in Japan in 2010. It's called Mangos, which is the largest back in the day globally for cryptocurrency trading. And then in 2011, where after the first Bitcoin was mentioned in China, and then the world's first ASIC mining hardware was produced in China too. And then, as you know that ever since then, China's mining industry was quite robust, and then there were lots of presence in the industry as well. And then after 2011, Bitcoin was first reported in China too by the Chinese media, and then 2011, the first Bitcoin conference was held in New York too. So this is the pictures that I the screen cap actually on 2011 June, where the Bitcoin was mentioned in Chinese social networking site. It actually says Bitcoin, which is 9.9 Chinese yuan, and it's going to be breaking through 10 yuan mark very soon. So we all know that later on in 2017, the Bitcoin price went up all the way to $20,000 per Bitcoin. So you can imagine the increase in the price the past couple of years. And then going through, I mean, the downsides of it, sorry, before I get into the downsides, Huobi actually become, it took us a little bit less than a year to become the #1 crypto exchange in terms of trading volume. And, actually more than 40% of the Bitcoins in the world were traded on Chinese local exchanges later on between 2013 to 2015. All right. So, I think the screen, I think on the slides, I think some part of the words are missing. So basically, between 2013 when we started the exchange all the way to 2015, this is really the first up of the Chinese market, where there were lots of new exchanges emerge in the market, including us. And then it took us, like I said, it took us a little less than a year to become the largest in China, and then the top exchanges for all over the world. And then it really on 2015, where there is this there's the regulations coming from PBOC and coming from the Chinese regulator, and declaring that Bitcoin was commodity, and all these financial institutions were not allowed to deal with business related to cryptocurrency per se, in Bitcoin in particular. And then that's really the first down time in the history where Bitcoin price went down dramatically. And after 2015 to 2017, the market slightly goes up again. And as you know, in 2017, this famous China ban happened, where all the exchanges, especially the fiat crypto exchanges, are not allowed to operate anymore in China. And that was the second downtime of it. You look at these pictures on the screen, and the total currency market capital actually went up from the beginning of 2017. The market slightly comes back from 2015, the first down, and then all the way to September 2017, where the China ban happened. And that's the second downtime, in the market. And this is actually the announcement coming from PBOC, People's Bank of China. It clearly states that ICOs and fiat to crypto exchanges were strictly forbidden. And in this statement, like I said, it says no ICO, and there's no token of fiat money exchange, and there's no ICO payment services provided. And then after 2017, which is last year, the second downtime, unexpectedly, we all see that the market bounced back dramatically in the second half of the year. Market went up actually, and we can see the changes after September the 4th, 2017. Fiat to token trading, and fiat and token to trade, and changes to token to token trading and OTC. And then before the China bans, very simple ID verification, and all the way to changes to straight KYC and AML policy. And then local exchanges changes into global exchanges. Local ICOs are not in the market anymore. They all become globalized. And these are the popular exchanges people will normally trade in China. For those who are familiar with the exchanges, and then the landscape of the exchanges, you probably heard about one of these names. And this is the cryptocurrency volume adjusted in 1 month in August to September. We see that actually close to 50% of the trading volumes is still coming from the top 3 Chinese exchanges. So about future opportunities and challenges, I think for starting from 2017, there is clearly at the second half of the 2017 after the China ban, where Bitcoin price dropped as well, and then later on when ERC20 and all these ERC20 and tokens started to take off, the token economics started to take off. The market comes back, and where Bitcoin rises up to $20,000 per coin, and then Ether goes up beyond $1,000 per Ether, and then now that we are getting back into the bear market, clearly there were lots of hype, and then people were starting to ask when is the next bull market is going to come back. I think there are some challenges we have to face and we have to solve before the bull market comes back, including the regulations. For those who are from the States, I'm based in Asia here. There were lots of discussions around regulatory matters and talking with the regulatory bodies here in Asia and also in the United States. It's really we're getting a sense that all the regulators are looking at the space very, very carefully. And we look at this map. We did internally an analysis in terms of policies. Regulators are friendly or strict, and then we did this analysis, and then we put the countries, the map of the countries here on this diagram, and then again it's the GDP of the countries. So you can see that. Let's take the US as the example. It's actually sitting on the top right corner, and then with the very high GDP and the policies wise, it's very strict. Same as Canada and New Zealand and Russia and all these countries. But when we look at the left-hand side where the policies are relatively more friendly, we see that in Korea, in Australia, in Indonesia, Turkey, and all these countries are very, very friendly in terms of policy. But in terms of GDP-wise, it may not be that high. I think it's clear that in some of the smaller jurisdictions and countries, the regulators tend to be more open-minded and wanted to embrace the new technology. It's also because they are relatively small, and then they're more agile, easier to roll out new policies, where the big countries, it tends to be more conservative. It's a bit more difficult for them to roll out new policies. Again, this is industry, and that's but as a practitioner in the industry, we really need to get to know all of these regulations in the industry in order to equip us to run the business. So there were a couple of trends we observed, regardless they are friendly or they're strict in terms of policy-wise. We need to answer, we need to pay attention to these questions, and whether crypto assets are permitted to be used as a payment tool, whether crypto assets exchanges are permitted to operate, and whether token sales is permitted, and whether investments in token assets are permitted. And all these questions are the four main questions we ask ourselves when we get into a particular market to better prepare us when, to come to local regulations. So we take, the US, and obviously the slides has to be updated. There are lots of new rules and policies coming up in a couple of weeks and days. So it's really, in high level in the US, it's really layered regulations where utility token and security token are always in debate. We look at all the utility token come up in the second half of 2017 and 2018. Most of the projects, especially IC-related projects, they're trying to position themselves as a utility token. The regulatory perspective, I think it's a better position. They want to position themselves, and then on the other side, it gives them more flexibility when it comes to go-to-market strategy and fundraising wise. And then in Japan, it's more of a centralized regulations. I think the split of the on the screen, split of the resolution thing, so the flag is not perfectly positioned. But so in Japan, centralized regulations and license scheme, there is a specific license to regulate cryptocurrency exchanges and ICO activities in Japan. And in 2017, in April the 1st, the Payment Service Amendment Act took effect, and Bitcoin was recognized as a legal tender ever since then. And then the crypto exchange authorized by the Ministry of Finance, Japan, and MFJ, and the Financial Service Agency, FSA, the regulator we normally would refer to in Japan. In South Korea, it's more still at the moment. It's more of a model of a self-regulatory organization. There's no clear acts or clear rules around the cryptocurrency assets yet. But then there are self-regulatory organizations being set up, where the most popular exchanges and participants in the market are in the group. They set up the rules and they have to follow it in terms of KYC, AML policies. So this is the current trend here in South Korea, but we expect more clear guidelines and rules coming from the regulator as the self-regulatory organizations are talking to the regulators on a constant basis. Yeah, so I mean, I just gave you 3 examples of the major countries, the main markets in global wise in terms of regulations. So regulations is really the key after 2018, after 2017 and 2018, that globally we're going to be compliant in order to run a business in the crypto space. And then and in terms of China, and then we hope that things will become much easier. We look forward to a more friendly policy promoted by PBOC. What we observe now is, in terms of technology, the policymakers are still positive towards the technology itself, mainly blockchain technology, versus to crypto. I mean, the trading activities, they tend to be more conservative. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the introduction. I think I'll stop at the 20 minutes mark, and then the rest of the slides will be the introduction. But I think it's really mainly about to give you guys a high level of overview of the overall crypto markets in China, and also what we expect and what we're looking at for the future 2 to 3 years time. So I will hand it back to you, Michael, and see how are we going to do the Q&A section.
Okay, thank you, Lee. And if anyone wants to ask a question, just raise your hand and we'll queue everyone up. Oh, that's quick. So Heil, you have the first question. Go ahead. And we have 30 minutes, so plenty of time. Go ahead, Sohail.
Thank you very much, Lee. Thank you very much, Michael, for the great presentation. So I wanted to ask from Lee, what do you see about possibility of accepting cryptocurrencies, including blockchain, by the giant retailers such as Amazon in the future? Do you think how possible would it be, and if they are going to able to overcome the legal barriers, and what is your general perception on that?
Well, I mean, it's a great question. I mean, in the commercial side of it, lots of the big corporations, especially in the financial sectors, are looking at the technology quite aggressively. Starting from a couple of years ago, I think there was this alliance being formed by the top financial institutions, especially the investment banks, Goldman, JP Morgan, and they formed this group really to research on the technology of blockchain to see whether blockchain itself, because blockchain at the end, normally we refer to blockchain as a distributed ledger technology, is really a a ledger that can store records. And there are in these financial institutions, there are and also in the commercial sector, like you said, in Amazon and some of the retail companies, there are gigantic number of data that are recorded on the centralized ledger. So there it comes with high cost, high maintenance costs, and also difficult to manage. And also they're exposed to vulnerability where data are being modified, are being hacked. So with a decentralized and more secure, more stable, lower cost ledger, it will definitely bring benefit, especially dollar impacts to these companies. And that's why financial institutions are, especially those have to deal with numbers and data on a daily basis, are looking at this technology quite aggressively. In fact, in financial institutions like JP Morgan, they do have specific departments and team dedicated to look at and experiment the technology. They run some of the program. So I think it's just that the main barrier for the main obstacle, I would say, for these kind of companies to come into the industry and also to embrace technology is really regulation. But I think starting in 2018 is really a good starting point where more regulators are looking at this space, and there are clear guidelines and rules are coming up. So these companies, especially listed company, in the market, they can follow these rules and regulations and guidelines to utilize the technology.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And Sarosh, I see you have a hand up. I'm going to unmute you, Sarosh. I think you're driving. Can you unmute? It's not letting me unmute you. There you go. You're open. Go ahead, Sarosh.
Okay. Thank you. So great presentation, Lee. So my question was regarding how you guys fund a new blockchain startup. So whenever you are thinking of funding a new blockchain startup, are there certain projects or certain criteria or certain industries that you look in that project, or what is the key components that you look in that startup before you decide to go ahead and fund that project?
Well, yeah, thank you, Suraj, for the questions. Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, for projects that we invested, I touched a little bit on the beginning that I had the investment team in a group, so we mainly invested in early stage project. If we, for a ticket, mainly before Series A plus. So and most of them are actually in seed rounds, angel round of investment. It's more like an angel round investment. So I think in terms of the verticals that we're looking at, mainly we're looking at base layer infrastructure level that mainly focus on public chains and protocol, where the public chains are solving the problems that we see in the current blockchain technology. So a couple blockchain problems that we see, including scalability issues, including interoperability, privacy, stability. And these are the main problems that we see in the current blockchain. I may give you examples that you may not heard about in the current Bitcoin or Ethereum network. For Bitcoin, Bitcoin was mined within every certain time interval. So every block is mined, after a certain period of time. So that would give constraint to, if we wanted to use Bitcoin blockchain as a settlement network. So all this data, all these records are written into the blockchain after a certain period of time. So you can imagine, I mean, the confirmation time is not that instant. So you don't get the instant response. That may not fit into the the actual use cases, especially most of the commercial use cases. And that's one. And two, I mean, every block has a block size. Imagine there are tons of data has to be written in the blockchain. Obviously, I mean, given the limited block size in each of the blockchain, when data, the size of the data grows up, we added up the waiting time, the confirmation time. So that's two, and that's what we normally would experience a congestion in the public blockchain, especially in Bitcoin, where transaction and Bitcoin and Ethereum in particular, where number of transactions goes up. We see especially in Ethereum lately, there are lots of decentralized applications being built on top of the Ethereum chain, and all of the decentralized applications have to utilize the public chain either for settlement or for other purpose. And then when the data, are being calculated, are being computed either off-chain or on-chain, and then they have to be written down and back to the blockchain. So that would create, lots of requests, and then eventually a great congestion. The direct impact would be you got to pay for more gas fees in order to get your confirmation, in order to get your transactions going through the blockchain. So that's the problems that we are facing. And then we put in a lot of attention and a lot of capital as well in this space to build a more scalable and more stable public blockchains to essentially to build a better infrastructure. Because we think 5 years, 10 years down the road, where decentralized application may become dominant in the market, we need a more sort of a stronger infrastructure, and that's one. And then in terms of protocol, and then we also invest a lot in protocol layers, because there are lots of industry and verticals when they got into the blockchain space, they need the protocol to work with. For example, when it comes to communication, payments, and sort of communications on payments, and also borrowing and lending in financial industry, the use case, I mean, at least the base use case are in common. They can utilize the same protocol to fulfill certain functions. So protocol layers is also something that we're looking at. And I guess to answer your questions in short, for earlier stage investments, other than due diligence, we normally will look at the people. And the team was definitely very crucial. We spend time working with the team, sitting down with the team to understand, their personality, their experience and their visions better. So I think that's really the key, to understand the people, understand the team. In terms of the technology, I think we're all working on the technology, and it's open source. It's different from what we see in traditional internet market, where all the technologies are patented. Mainly the technology around this space now are open source. For those who are coming from engineering backgrounds, you can actually go out on GitHub and check out the source code. It's very interesting. So I'm not sure that I answered your questions, but long story short, I think the answer would be, just looking at the people. I think value the value of people a lot. Yeah.
So thank you, Li. We actually have a question in the Kirk has a hand up. Kirk, go ahead.
Here we go. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, great presentation. Thank you. I was wondering, what sectors do you see most of the technology development in? Is it mostly like finance or like supply chain, or like is it like a wide variety of sectors that are using blockchain or developing like protocols for it? Or I was just kind of curious to get your take on that, and what experience do you have that comes across your desk, and what projects, where they're coming from?
Yeah, that's a great one. I think we actually did a review of the industry and also the portfolios that we're investing in, and also there are analysis that are being built. I think in terms of the industry that's coming from, I think the top industry that we see is definitely the financial industry. And the reason being, when Bitcoin was first invented, the Bitcoin was first invented as a cash to replace what we use on a daily basis, the paper notes. And blockchain naturally can fit into lots of the use cases in the financial industry. Like I said, blockchain essentially is a decentralized ledger. So lots of the financial use cases, you really need to put records onto a ledger, which normally is a centralized one. So mainly we'll see a lot of use cases built around financial industry, but then obviously there are some other industry trying to utilize the technology as well, including supply chain, logistic, and then there are also some of the applications coming from media, advertisement industry. But mainly we see a lot of the projects coming from financial industry.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So Lee, I teach the blockchain course here at Harvard, and as you know, there's just an absolute ton of hype. A lot of people just think that blockchain can solve every problem, every woe. It's just a panacea for everything. And I personally am a little surprised that nothing mainstream has come out yet besides Bitcoin. And I'm curious how you feel about the progress of the industry in general. And what do you think is going to be the first thing that's going to pop out there specifically that's actually going to work and become mainstream to consumers?
Well, yeah, I think, Michael, like as I said, I think there are lots of work being developed, a lot behind the scenes. I think there are lots of work being done. It's just that they're all in experiments. For those who follow the industry quite closely, I think you notice that not only the startup teams but also the big corporations are spending time, efforts, human resources in this space too. In terms of mainstream, you see that when Bitcoin, before 2017, it's true that if we add up the whole market cap of cryptocurrency is really tiny compared to the other, or really minimal compared to the other assets. For example, fixed income, equity, real estate, and currency, and etc. But when Bitcoin price really gone up to $20,000 per Bitcoin, I think where the cryptocurrency market really become a sounded player in this industry, where the whole cryptocurrency market cap go beyond $1 trillion. Now that the market comes down a little bit, I think still we have around the market cap around 200 billion to 400 billion, somewhere around this mark. So we see yesterday, I'll give you some examples. We see yesterday where the mainstream players trying to come into this place, especially in the financial industry. Yesterday, I think we see it on newspaper that one of the major exchanges actually is ICE, who is the parent company of New York Stock Exchange and a couple other exchanges globally. They're planning to launch this exchange in December. It's going to be a future derivative exchange. I think it's going to be licensed, where normal sort of financial institutions can come into trade, for hedge funds, for pension funds, and all of these traditional trading vehicles can come into a regulated marketplace to trade Bitcoin and its derivatives. So I think that's a very significant move from the mainstream players. And also when we look back, where CBOE and CME already launched Bitcoin-related derivative futures and future contracts on the exchange, and that's also something we see that the mainstream is trying to get into this space, or vice versa. Bitcoin and cryptocurrency become more and more mainstream through this trading vehicle. And in the financial industry, sort of, like I said, is really the main industry that's got innovated and trying to embrace technology. We see that in terms of user adoption perspective, there are lots of projects related to payment and remittance. So they leverage the flexibility of cryptocurrency to settle the payments on daily basis, or they change the entire settlement network entirely, so that when you go out and pay your bills, or you go out to a convenience store, you want to buy a cup of coffee, you can use cryptocurrency to settle. I think that would drive the user adoption massively. In time, I think in terms of technology, we're still in early stage. But when the technology become more and more mature, the more use cases coming to the industry, I think you will see more mainstream use case, and also the mainstream players come into the industry.
So my follow-up question on that is, I lived in China for the summer, and I never used cash. I lived off of Alipay and WeChat Pay, and absolutely love it. China's like way ahead of us on that end. Do you see an advantage of Bitcoin over Alipay and WeChat Pay? I mean, I was completely content, but I'm curious if you see that there's any advantage of cryptocurrency over Alipay or WeChat Pay.
Well, yeah, I think there's no direct competition between these two, and per se for Bitcoin now, where Bitcoin is in most of the cases, and normally now it's getting treated as the storage of value. It's similar to gold, that Bitcoin now has become a asset that people would put their bets on for value preservation, and then on daily basis. I mean, daily trading business, and probably we're not using Bitcoin. I think Bitcoin is now becoming, like I said, become a storage value. And then the technology itself for Alipay and WeChat Pay it's a good. I think now that it's really efficient, it's very user friendly, and the underlying technology it's still very centralized. And then blockchain technology potentially can sort of renovate the underlying technology of Bitcoin and Alipay. It's not that we have to sort of put in the way that Bitcoin can replace WeChat Pay or Alipay or vice versa.
Gotcha. And so last question on this theme is, do you see the Chinese government or any government getting into cryptocurrency at any point in the future? Like, do you know what their feelings are on it?
Yeah, that's a great one, and also a tough one. I think there are some, like I said in the previous slides, that I share on the regulatory landscape. I may have to go back to this slide. So yeah, you see that generally speaking, for big countries, they tend to be more conservative, and then for smaller countries, especially for those developing countries, they tend to be a little bit more aggressive when embracing cryptocurrency and then embracing the technology of blockchain. We see some of the countries in South Africa and some of the countries in South America, they are trying to leverage the cryptocurrency assets. I'm not going to name names, but then some of the countries, I can give some example, they're even trying to issue currency based on blockchain and then replacing their own sort of currency. But there's a couple of reasons. Some of the reasons may be because there are, it's not that stable in terms of the value of the currency. And then they wanted to leverage technology to issue a more stable currency for the country's economics, and then also by introducing this new technology, they can sort of accumulate the global liquidity similar to other global currency, where originally their currency is more local, local base. So for countries like this, especially smaller and developing countries, they're more sort of more welcoming, and more friendly to policy to this technology.
Okay, thank you. And we have another question from Suraj in Canada. Suraj?
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So Lee, like I've been looking at the blockchain application, especially in aviation airport environment in terms of, terminal passengers, because terminal information with regards to passenger, the information is exchanged through a lot of hands, that is airlines, airport, screening agencies, intelligence agencies, then customs and all those things. And then second, I've also been looking at application in terms of supply chain for air freight. Also, again, the same thing, like the cargo freight changes like 10 to 15 different hands, different regulatory bodies. So wanted to check that if like I'm kind of interested, and if I want to develop and commercialize these kind of applications, how would I be able to go about working with you guys on these specific applications?
Yeah, I think that's very good vertical to look at for blockchain. Squash. I think especially comes to data, sort of data usage and data manipulations on the chain. It's a perfect leisure to put data on public chain. I think the question is which public chain to use. Whether you're going to use one of the existing public chain, or you're going to develop your own to cater your use case in your particular use case, because it's slightly different in terms of your request to the public chains. And I think what we are really strong at is really a connection in the industry and also in the region. Where in most of the cases when we come into the pictures. It's we can help drive the user adoption because we as a major player in the region and also globally, we are able to connect resources in the industry, especially those outside of the blockchain industry and cryptocurrency industry, to bring players in, for example, in the supply chains industry, and to come into test out your technology, your solution. I'll give you an example. So we have this blockchain plus alliance in China and Asia, where the major players in each industry are members, and then they're all joined together and trying to integrate the blockchain technology with their current use cases, and trying to solve their problem. So I think the best way is really when you have the product available, then we can look at the product together, and then we see whether the solution would be feasible to be applied in certain companies in certain industry.
Excellent, thank you.
So Lee, I want to be mindful of your time, so I know you have to run. We get tons of blockchain ideas with my affiliation with Harvard as well as MIT, and I'm curious if you're looking for new ideas to come across your desk. And if so, would you want me to just forward maybe one pages? I don't want to dump a lot of ideas on you. I will pre-screen everything. But if I come up with a good idea, would you be interested in looking at a one-pager to see if it's something that would fit what you're looking for?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we always welcome new ideas and new thoughts around this space. Especially those with industry experience. I think they will be even more valuable because user adoptions will be one of the key problems that we're trying to solve. So having a right experience in a particular industry and then integrate it with blockchain technology and mindset, we'll probably come up with greater ideas. So yeah, I'm more than welcome to look at the one pages from you.
Do you have anything on your wish list? Like, I wish some blockchain startup would come to me with this particular idea. Anything that you have on your birthday list right now? I can keep an eye out for you.
Well, I think infrastructures and protocol will be still my main focus, and also use cases that could help drive the mass adoption, leveraging the blockchain technology. I think that's the second focus that I will focus on.
Beautiful. Okay, we're going to stop right on time because I want to make you on time for your meeting. Li, thank you so much for the generosity of your time and your slides. This has been recorded, so we'll be providing a tape for you. Feel free to share it with anyone you like. And when I come up with a really good idea, I'll send you a one-pager. I will not send you a 500-page white paper, I promise. And thank you again for your time. And we hope to see you perhaps next semester for our blockchain course if you'd be interested.
Well, yeah, thank you. I mean, thank you, Michael. And it's really my pleasure to get a chance to speak. It's really my first time, so hope that I can prepare a little bit better. Next time I share a little bit more insight of the industry. And if you think there are any particular topics that you and friends in college are interested in, we can explore sharing on that particular topic as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again for the generosity of your time, and we will see you next semester.
Yep, thank you.
Okay, take care. Good night, everybody.